The Indiana Pacers are way better than anybody thought they would be, as they are currently 17-14 and they are right in the thick of the Eastern Conference, currently 6th. And they've been a fantastic offensive team, currently 6th in the league at 110 offensive rating. The defense is good enough to where it's not a disaster, currently 19th at about 109 points allowed per 100. I talked about Victor Oladipo earlier this season. I just focused on him. He's still the number one reason why all this is happening. Oladipo, 25 points a game, 43% from three. He's just transformed himself, man. His jump shot has gotten significantly better. His pull-up threes and just his shooting confidence has just gone through the roof, and then as a result, his entire offensive game has opened up as well. He seems more athletic this season as well. Apparently he lost some weight, definitely improved on his ball handling, just became a significantly better player in a matter of one season. And he's still the forefront of this offense, because if he's not here, then it's a whole bunch of guys who can't even put up 15 points a game. Now, would someone else probably put up a few more points if Oladipo wasn't here? Sure, but not a lot of naturally gifted offensive players in this team. And I do have to give Nate McMillan credit here. He's a coach that I've criticized in the past, so I'll give him some praise on this one. This team constantly has a spaced floor. While they're not really anywhere close to being like top of the league in three-point attempts, they're 22nd in the league, but they're shooting 39% from three, which is second in the NBA. So while they're not shooting as many threes as a lot of teams, they are making it way more efficiently than most teams in the NBA. And between Victor Oladipo, Bojan Bogdanovic, Darren Collison, Miles Turner, Corey Joseph, and TJ Leaf, well, he takes about one a game. He only plays about 10 minutes a game. But basically, the floor is just always spaced. He also puts Thad Young a lot of the time on the perimeter, and Thad, yeah, he's not going to kill you with the outside jumper like that, but he'll occasionally hoist one up, but he can go off the bounce a little bit. So the floor is just always spaced. And I think he does a really good job of, this being Nate McMillan, of using like flare screens with Miles Turner. Because Turner's a good shooter, so if the defense commits to the guy going across the screen, which a lot of the time is like Oladipo, then Turner's got an open jumper on his hands, so that's a good thing. Now, the fact that Miles Turner is not a knockdown three-point shooter at this point, it's kind of confusing to me, just because he's such a good mid-range shooter and he looks so comfortable attempting those that I figured at this point he'd be knocking down threes, and he's just not. He's shooting 34% right now. He only takes about 2.5 a game. Just weird. I really would expect him at this point to be shooting 5 threes a game and shooting pretty well, but even if those are not a real thing for him right now, he does still provide spacing, and I also think his reputation as a three-point shooter is perhaps a little better than it really should be, because teams do tend to not just leave him wide open from out there all the time, which is still good spacing, so it works out for the Pacers nonetheless. And when you combine Turner's ability to roll to the rim, although his finishing at the basket has been worse this season, but I'm sure that'll fix itself, with Sabonis, as well as Thad Young, and then you combine that with the ball handlers this team has, mainly Corey Joseph, Darren Collison, Oladipo, and Lance Stevenson, that's a pretty good pick and roll thing that you got going on. You have a lot of options. So even though this team does not have one big playmaker, they have a lot of guys who can just kind of chip in with the playmaking, you know? Stevenson has a few plays, Corey Joseph has a few, Collison has a few. Oladipo commands so much attention from the defense that he basically has like 6 or 7 assists a game, even if he only technically averages 4. Kind of like the Steph Curry effect, just on a much lower scale, because Oladipo is not Curry, of course. It's just working offensively, man. And if I'm looking at the percentages from 3 for these guys, the big one is still Oladipo, of course. Can he maintain that 43% three-point shooting? I'm going to say yes, just because of the threes he's been taking. A lot of them have been pull-ups and contested. I feel like if you're going to hit those type of shots consistently through a 30-game stretch, you've got to be a legit shooter. So I think the new Victor Oladipo is probably here to stay. Bojan shooting over 40% from 3. I don't think that's too shocking, right? He's been a plus three-point shooter basically his entire career. Darren Collison's also always been a good three-point shooter. Corey Joseph has always been good, so I think three-point shooting can maintain itself. And if that's the case, I have to assume they don't finish 6th in offensive rating just because seems a little too nuts for the actual talent on this team. But I think they can maintain top 10, definitely. And actually, once they get Glenn Robinson III back, and he had a pretty nasty ankle injury, and they said about 3 to 4 months to heal, and that was in late September, so it's still going to be a bit here, but I mean, at the very minimum, maybe sometime in January, but he's another shooter, so then you'll just have another guy who can knock down shots for you. They're pretty good. Now, the question is, can they make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference? Well, they're definitely in a position to. It's 17-14. They are half a game up on the Knicks, who are the 8th seed, and they are a game and a half up on the 9th seed, who are the Miami Heat. Now, Miami I expect them to be better once Whiteside is healthy and ready to go here, although Dragic did just suffer an injury, and I guess he's going to play through it, but that'll probably hurt his effectiveness. And then you got Philly at number 10, and their whole thing is, is Embiid healthy? And if Embiid's healthy, then they got a chance. I guess with Indiana, the fear would be if the defense just falls off a cliff. Now, they don't really have almost anyone on this roster that I would say is a really good defensive player. Nope, there pretty much is not one guy. I mean, Miles Turner's rim protection's pretty decent, but, and Lance Stevenson has some moments, but I mean, Oladipo, he's been a disappointment defensively pretty much his whole career. Thad Young's okay, Bogdanovich is okay, Collison's okay. It's a whole lot of okay. Now, Glenn Robinson coming back could help him out, but yeah, defensively they could just get really bad, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's any horrible defenders in this team either. I think if you have a whole lot of okay defenders and the coaching isn't terrible, then I think you can be good enough on defense. But it is possible some teams could just surpass them. I mean, Miami with a healthy Whiteside, Embiid, and the Sixers, if Embiid plays enough, I could see them surpassing the Pacers. Ultimately, I think they can get the 8th seed because Miami's offensive struggles are going to be tough to overcome with or without Whiteside. Like, they weren't that good of an offensive team overall last season either, and Dion Waiters' shot has been struggling. And then I think Embiid, it's possible that he'll just miss a few too many games, especially if Indiana's going to maintain being like above 500. So, see, but then on the flip side, I could just picture Philadelphia just winning the majority of games that Embiid is in. So it's tough, If I had to, right here, right now, pick a solid answer, I might have to say no to Indiana making the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, the answer of if Embiid is healthy is the answer to like 9 million questions in the NBA nowadays. Now, I should talk about the Knicks a little bit because I'm kind of ignoring them here. I figure a team that is really good at home and has Porzingis is going to make the playoffs. That's not exactly a detailed answer, but I mean, they're 14-5 in New York, and they have a guy who can go off for 40 points any night. So I think they're going to make it in. So, whatever. That's too close to call because it's basically injuries. If Embiid's healthy, I think Philadelphia surpasses the Pacers. If he's not healthy, I think they don't surpass the Pacers. And a similar thing can be said with Miami and Whiteside. So, there you go. As far as the Wizards or the Bucks falling off, I don't picture either one of those things happening, and there you go. So there's your non-answer to if Indiana can make the postseason in the NBA this year. But still, things are going well. If Oladipo can keep this up, then I guess they have their star player, and then from there on, it's a matter of their front office just nailing the draft picks they have, making, subtle moves here and there to where you can get someone who one team gave up on and he can become something for you. And who knows, maybe Indiana could be a really, really good team again.